Cool.
This came from a event in the Green Zone in the Rio Pavilion talking about Pole to Paris. And can you tell us what Pole to Paris is and introduce yourself?
So I'm Erlend Knudsen. I am the Deputy Director of Pole to Paris. I just finished a run from Tromsø, Norway to Paris. 2,500 kilometers of running over 4 months. So Pole to Paris is a climate outreach campaign. So what I was saying is that there's also a biker in this. So Daniel Price, our director, he just finished cycling from New Zealand to Paris. Along the way, both of us have been spreading awareness about climate change, going to different schools, universities. We have taken part in open climate events. We have news in media a lot. And of course, the fact that we are running and biking means that it's much easier for people to interact. Coming from a scientific background, that's wonderful. We are true climate researchers, accessible for the general public, and that's just what we're trying to do as well, bridging the gap between academia and the general public.
So in the event, someone asked what you guys will be doing after, because you guys just arrived on Friday in Paris together. But Pole to Paris as an organization, will that continue to exist after COP21?
That's a very good question. We definitely need to think about this. So Pole to Paris is very young. We started thinking about this pretty much last fall, and made it official this April. And since then, just been going full time, days and nights. So really, what we first need, as Dan's answer was really to sleep, and then we kind of think about it, like what do we want to do from here. But I really like doing what have been doing right now, like running and doing climate outreach. So doing something similarly somewhere else, I would not be negative to that.
So are you currently still working on your PhD, or I'm a little confused where you are in life right now?
So I finished my PhD in March, and Dan also finished his PhD around the same time. So we both finished. We were kind of like in between. We didn't, really know what we wanted to do. We were kind of a bit sick about academia, just sitting behind our desks, doing research where our scientific papers would end up in scientific journals, which are only read by other people within science. What we really need is to really reach out for the general public to increase the understanding of climate change. So that's what we've been working on since. So right now, I guess I'm looking for a job or some way to make money, but really also figuring out what I want to do next after this. And climate outreach is something I really like doing.
And so how was Pole to Paris funded?
Through different partners and sponsors. That said, we will not be able to cover all expenses, so it's a loss, especially for Dan and me, personal loss in money, but it was such a gain in so many other ways. For example, with contacts, for example, with experiences, but also from the people we met along the way that just gave so much wonderful motivation and totally made us realize that this is definitely the right thing to do.
Do you have a favorite story of an interaction that you had with someone maybe that hadn't really heard a lot about climate change before?
What I found to be was that most people actually heard about climate change in one way or another, and also the people that doesn't really know the term of climate change still see it. They can relate to it. For example, a fisherman we had in Indonesia, his name is Made, he's in his 80s. He has never been to school. He doesn't know how to write, he doesn't know how to read. But he knows about climate change. He doesn't know the term, but he sees because in his fishing, a lot of things are happening. Some species are gone. Some of the species are changing, and things are changing rapidly. In the same way, I interacted with a Sami up in northern Norway in the Arctic, which told me about how the climate change is already affecting the reindeer that she lives off. And these are stories that we really brought into Paris. Because a lot of people think that climate change is something distant in time or geographically, and so we really think that it's important also to tell the story of these people, and climate change is actually here and now.
So just to push back a little bit, how do you know that those factors that people are talking about aren't attributable to other things like overfishing or disease or things like that? How do they know it's climate change?
So with the fishing example, it's also partly overfishing, definitely. It's part of a lot of different stories regarding environmental issues. Everything, however, is connected with climate change, and it makes it worse, making worse by climate change. For example, the example with the Sami, that's very clear. It's because the winters are getting milder, So you have more freeze and thaw cycles as you have rainfall now instead of just constant snow during wintertime. So then the reindeer is not able to get through the ice layers that are not then forming, and they starve. So this is because the temperatures are rising, especially in the polar regions. In the Arctic, the temperatures are rising more than twice as fast as global average, and this is partly, generally, this is mainly due to our greenhouse gas emissions that are just increasing and increasing.
And what would you say was one of the biggest challenges you faced while running?
The biggest challenge for me was really to motivate myself to keep on going day after day, no matter how my legs felt, how no matter how the conditions were outside, you just had to continue running. It's like 30 kilometers a day, carrying a backpack of up to 20 kilos on your back. It's tough. And doing this mainly, like most part of the run, I did it alone as well. So just motivating yourself day after day was probably the toughest part, but it was also very rewarding interacting with the people along the way. If I'd just been running into Paris and I was kind of just wait until I interacted with people there, I think I would have given up much earlier, because the people I met along the way gave me so much energy. They believed in the project, they believed that this is something important. That kept me going.
So did you run marathons before, or do you have running experience, or?
I did. So I'm a runner ever since I was 16 or so. I am now 29. So I've done different sports, running, long distance running, marathons, and so on, which is of course kind of mandatory if you're going to put on something like this. That said, there was also people joining along the way. One of our team members, Orja, she joined 600 kilometers and she is not a runner, but she was still able to do this simply by taking day after day, and in the same way being inspired by the people we met along the way.
Are there any other comments that you'd like to leave us with, or any big takeaways?
So you guys are coming from Minnesota, and I would like to say that Minnesota is very much one of the reasons why I am here. It was a summer institute in Minnesota for 6 years ago. I took part in organized by Fulbright, which really inspired me so much to continue on doing research and ending up with a PhD in Arctic climate. Especially Will Seeger, great inspiration, not only because he's doing all these amazing trips, which I also done a few like shorter expeditions, nothing compared to his, but also because he talks about it. And to me, being a spokesperson about climate change, a witness of climate change, is something I'm very much inspired to. And coming from my background of climate research, I feel like also have the obligation of talking about what I see in data and in real life.
Well, thank you so much for fulfilling that obligation. Thank you. And thank you for watching Citizens Voice.